बैलेट बॉक्स इंडिया, आओ बनाए मजबूत स्थानीय नेतृत्व। लोकल के लिए वोकल बने नव प्रवर्तक पोर्टल्स भारतीय इंजीनियरिंग द्वारा स्वदेश में ही निर्मित एवं संचालित हैं। आज ही अपना खुद का पोर्टल बुक करें।
It is my great pleasure to welcome Shri Dinesh Mishra ji, who is an institution in himself when it comes to rivers and floods of Bihar. He was born just before independence in a village in Uttar Pradesh, and his long and sustained journey of more than 4 decades has become a part of a larger social movement. He is an MTech from IIT and also holds PhD in structural engineering from Gujarat, yet he chose to work on river systems in Bihar. He has been an Ashoka Fellow and has single-handedly contributed to the understanding of flooding rivers and laid the foundation of an extensive knowledge base on cultural identity and landscapes of fluvial systems of North Bihar. Mishra ji was honored with the Bhagirath Prayas Samman in 2016, and through his sustained campaigns, travels, writings, lectures, advocacy, and public meetings, many individuals and organizations have benefited immensely. He is also recording local insights, learnings, experiences, and knowledge about past episodes of floods and extreme events in North Bihar. He was a member of the Dams and Development Forum of United Nations Environmental Programme and represented project affected people during 2003 to 2007. He was also a member of the working group on flood control and water logging of the Planning Commission of India and contributed immensely in reviewing the progress made in the 11th five-year plan. Dinesh ji has dedicated all his life in telling us about this short-sighted engineering-centric approach of managing floods in the Ganga basin. He has written extensively on Kosi, Ghagra, Gandak, Kamla, Bagmati, Mahananda, and many other rivers. He has more than 100 publications and many booklets and books. Some notable among them are one on Kosi River, that is trapped between the Devil and deep waters, the story of Bihar's Kosi River. Then one on river Bagmati, bounties become a curse. And one on Kosi, living with politics of floods, refugees of the Kosi embankments. He has also written on Mahananda River and Kamla and Balan rivers. So today we are going to demystify the politics of water and flood control, and also a little bit on climate change. So let me ask our today's expert, and we are also having Rakesh Prasad with us, who is the founder of Ballot Box India. So Mishra ji, you have written about Bhutahi Nadi or Tantrik Jharpuk, the story of ghost rivers and engineering witchcraft in 2004. So what is the story behind this work?
No, that river is called Bhuti Balan, Balan is a general name for rivers and Bhuti is the adjective. Bhuti means in Hindi, it's in English, it's like a ghost.
Uh-huh.
So it appears like a ghost, and by the time you react to it, the ghost is gone. So that's the behavior of the river, It appears all of a sudden, and by the time you can react to it, it has done its damage and has left the place. So that is why it is called Bhuti or Bhutni, whatever. We call it Bhuti locally.
Right.
And they say, the general saying about the river is that if you are trapped between the river when it has just started flowing during the rainy season, there is every possibility that the water of the river is so swift that it will not allow you to stand. It will make you fall on the ground in the river bed, and the sand that accompanies the river water will bury you there. So you can't come out alive from the river when it is in spate. That is what the saying goes, That's why we call it Bhuti Balan. And then to deal with such a river, well, we can only pray for it, and do all sort of obsolete rituals. So that's the witchcraft. I said, use that word. Yeah.
So you have been writing about the flooding rivers of North Bihar. So is there any change of perception about flooding rivers? Are we still in the same infrastructure-centric approach of taming the rivers, as you write? We tend to tame the rivers.
Yeah, actually, that is what engineers can do. We have taught about 7 or 8 methods to deal with a river in our curriculum, which starts from, say, embanking the rivers, raising the villages, deepening the river and all that, damming, transferring water from one river to the other. So many things are there, but they are all known options. And we, if at all, we take it seriously, we are trained on that. But in most of the cases, the other side of it is never told to us, during our curriculum. Let's see that, look, if you are doing this, or say if you are stopping a river from pursuing its path which it was adhering to earlier, what will happen to the river? No. Our job ends when we have stopped the river.
Right.
We are not concerned about what happens later, It is somebody else's lookout or nobody else's lookout. That's the basic thing. So that's the input part of it, and say we were lucky to have studied in institutions like IITs and all, where we got exposure. And the good thing about there was, whatever is there in curriculum, at least those times of 50 years ago, that you have to write it once in the examination paper. Right. You can't escape it. Whatever you are taught, you have to write it at some point or other. So you get exposed, whether you like it or not. But what happens in the other universities or institutions where you get 10 questions and you are supposed to answer 7 or 8? So those 2 questions which you are not answering, there comes the flood control. Most of the people, they say that they leave it in option. Neither they read nor they react or whatever. So that's the exposure generally. And the after effects of our doing is never discussed. As far as I know, I've never come across any meeting where students are there and then we start discussing what happens next. When you have done your job, then what do you do? So that's the problem, with our education system.
So you have been writing about the even the historical and cultural aspects of rivers and communities, in managing floods. So how important are these historical and cultural bonding with a river of the communities?
See, we address them as river mother. That is the relationship normally we pursue with the rivers. Right. Some rivers are sisters also. If they are small. Some rivers are friends also. Kaka Kalilkar had given great details, that the Mandvi river, I think his village was located Mandvi or something very similar to this, may not be Mandvi. So he said she is a friend of my childhood. So we have got different sort of relationship, but then it's always revered relationship,
Right.
We call it Bhutani has happened, but then if you stand on the bank of the river, Then you provide urge to the river, offerings to the river with water in your hand and all, and you say Ma. And then it is also there, if you don't know the name of the river, the Ganga is the common name, Ma Ganga is there, whether it is Bhuti or Kamla or Bagmati or whatever. You are free to use that word Ganga. That sort of relationship we had with the river. And there are many stories, how a river was bought, what was the duties assigned to it. I mean, the scriptures are full of those details, those stories. Say, Kosi is one which has been told, which we are told that some demon, God fell in love with the hairdo of Kosi. And then said, I will marry you. And this river got scared and went to her father, the Lord Shiva. And then says that, look, this man is, this devil is after me and wants to get married with me and all. And he has threatened that I can't escape it. He said, she was told that go and put a condition that if you can tame me within the night's time, then I'll get married to you. No problem. And then the river disappears from them, appears before the demon and says, "Theek hai, you can tame me, but it should be before sunlight tomorrow." Right. And he was set on his work. And the devil, being a devil, he started with a fanatic speed, And then Kosi got scared again and went to Lord Shiva again, saying that this man is very fast moving, He will complete it. He says, okay, I'll take care of it. And then he becomes a crow on a cock. And then goes and starts shouting there where this man was working, And the demon got scared. That, Arey Baba, it is morning already. And then he ran away from there. So Kosi remained free. And the bank and the embankment that he was building, it was left half done. Right. Legend goes that remnants of that embankment, are still there as Bir Bandh, just down the Kosi Barrage in Supor district. It is about 1 kilometer length stretch of it, known as Bir Bandh or whatever. So those stories are there. And there is interesting stories with Bagmati, that also got held. Every, name it and you have some story attached to that river, And then the relationships, in case of Kosi, it's very interesting that I had heard once, or I read somewhere, that it's a river which keeps on changing its course, which the British defined that it is a war which changes its bed every night. That is I think his name was some Richards or something. I must have written in that book. But then, say the river comes to us, it comes to our villages, and if it does not, if it gets delayed, then our women, they perform some rituals and say, Ma, enough is enough, now you should be coming to us, to our village and to irrigate our fields and all that. And then the river comes, and normally they say it stays there for 2.5 days in a stretch and then disappears. So within those 2.5 days, it rejuvenates their fields by spreading its fertilizing silt. It also takes care of the groundwater and cleans the area, and it also brings fishes and everything, that is all attached to a river. Supposing it overstays in the area, then the women also, again, they start praying, Mother, enough is enough, now it's time for you to go. Right. And if it does not, then we see all these rivers which are changing courses. We call them Kanya rivers. They are all young girls. Right. Young girls means they will not stay at one place. They will keep on jumping, playing, and all that. So that's the rivers. Say Ganga is a stable river. It's a mother river. It's a mother river, and it's like a married woman. Right. Who can rarely jump and dance and all, because she has got a lot of responsibility for the family and the society. This girl hasn't got any responsibility. It keeps on jumping. Then the women collect, and then they say that, look, enough is enough. And if you don't behave yourself, we'll get you married. So getting married for a river like Kosi and all that, the women come with this vermilion powder and then say, we are going to sprinkle it. And the legend says that the river recedes very fast. She is scared of getting married, So all those stories, stories, they travel in the area. But then this cannot happen. And these stories also cannot be built unless people have had time with them.
Exactly.
A person busy for 24 hours or say 18 hours a day will hardly have any time to do anything artistic or linguistic or anything, pursuing an art or culture. Then people had enough time because the river water used to give them an opportunity to spare time for the river and for the community and the society.
Yes.
Then the stories come up, then the music comes up, then poetry comes up, so many things, and then paintings come up. But if you don't have time, you can't pursue those arts.
So it seems like we have lost these connections these days, For
sure.
But again, Venkatesh, those were the days. Now today, if you look at the world, the way it is organized, right? So shouldn't we evolve these theories about being, because if you look at the status of rivers in India, and if you look at the other industrialized or heavily developed countries, right? So there is a pattern. The more industrialized or more urbanized the city is, or maybe the country is, the better the situation of river is. Because they came out of the folklores, but they then start taking these things as commodities, right? So which people have to take care of, versus if you take as a mother or as a folklore figure like a legend or some kind of god. In that scenario, what happens is you are asking them to take care of you, right? So, there's a perception from the public as well, which changes. If you look at the local cultural aspects, which had been there earlier, but now the world is changing. Now, if you are thinking about having a mass movement or have a mass kind of a perspective change about the natural resources, I think we should be coming back towards thinking them as assets or maybe commodities, which is essential, and we have to protect them as any of our investments, right? That kind of thing, that kind of mindset, there has to be some kind of assimilation between these two processes, the thought process, right? One is the kind of veneration we put in the nymph rivers or water bodies, because right now there is a lot of confusion. We do pray about the rivers, but again we also ban people to reach the rivers, like Chhat Puja and Yamuna and all those pictures you might have seen. People have a certain, they want to be attached with the water bodies, but again to a certain extent only, asking for something, right? Never ever there is a thought process or a sustained thought process across the institution or people, which will say, okay, now we have to start thinking scientifically, right?
I wanted to ask Mishra ji just a related question.
I get it.
So, Mishra ji, have we discarded the age-old wisdom and adopted measures which are out of sync for our rivers? What Rakesh was saying. Have we failed to institutionalize traditional ways of living with floods?
That is for certain, that we have forgotten all that. And we deal differently with the rivers, See, as I said earlier, our approach was to call these institutions of rivers and all that as our mothers. Okay. And that's what Rakesh has rightly pointed out, that it's not only a mother, because so many things have changed and the society has gone through a change and all that. And that mother has become a resource. Okay. Now, my mother or your mother is a mother, it's not a resource.
Right.
when you start dealing with your mother as a resource, you are going to misbehave with her anyway.
Exactly.
And that is what the process we have been going through. Because the economic value or the financial aspects, power aspects, irrigation aspects and all, those things have come into picture. And they are quite logical, because the society is growing, and then we can take lessons from West and all that, the culture is there. They are more caring about their resources, They are more caring about it, and that on the top of it, it's the accountability factor.
Very true.
Is something that a person in say Europe or in US or in other developed countries does it or goes through it is with accountability. You can't escape it. Unfortunately for us in our country, it is one-way traffic. Okay. We never look back. You remember the incidents of Yagyavalk? Once Janak said that I want to see in a robe of a sannyasi and all that or something. And then he did it. When he came to the court, dressed as a monk. And then Janak says, thank you very much, but then I would like to see you back again. He says, no, you can't swallow shit once you have excreted, So the game is over for me. So actually you can't become Yagyavalk, You adopt a certain way of living from the different society or a different culture and all. And forget your own. Now, see, when you go through our writings earlier, see the basic duty given to a river by nature is one, it should keep the fertility of the soil and the moisture into it. Okay. It's also another duty is to send every drop of water, part of it, to enrich the groundwater. And the remaining portion is of the air and the sea. It should be drained out. What happens when we thought the nature from doing its, or the rivers from doing these duties? Our rivers, when embanked, they can't go to the village, can't reach the fields of our area. The fertility is at the stake. That water which used to spread during the flood season cannot go to that area, so that the groundwater situation gets depleted because there is no feeding back to it.
Right.
And then whatever goes to the sea, how it goes, that also is interrupted at many places by these structures. Now, if you are taking concern of all these happenings around and take suitable steps, how much water, how much it is to be used, even it is milking a cow, you leave something for the calf, You don't take out everything, So one must know the limit to which you should be doing, and unfortunately we are taught in our curriculum about, I'm talking of 50 years ago, of Empire State building, 104-storied building, and our professor used to say, you have to better than this. This is not the limit, you should go beyond. We are shown the figures of that Golden Gate Bridge, 16 kilometers wide. You have to better it. So right from the beginning, we are fed with those ideas,
Right.
Magnanimity, we are never told about. Say, bamboo is a very nice building material in our country. About 80% of population used to use bamboo, and maybe in Northeast it is still there as a building material. We were never taught about the strength of the bamboo, strength of mud houses and all. And the time when we got educated, it was said that about 80% of the population of the country lives in villages.
Hmm.
And what was the education given to us? Only for those 20% people living in the urban areas, and only 5% of maximum of them they could afford our cost.
Hmm.
Of those 20%, 5% could afford our cost. So what we were made for? Naturally, the stamp of Q on our back, quality, export,
Hmm.
and we are faithfully responding it. We never try to learn from the people, that what should be
Right.
their requirement. Say the river was flowing, water was there, and then they say the water is being wasted.
Hmm.
There is a debate on that wasting of water that flows into the river.
Hmm.
That should be defined. What is wastage and why it is wastage, and what are the purposes that it is not serving or serving. That we should be knowing. No studies on that. No studies on
Yes.
that. You are taught simply how to design a building
Hmm.
and then how to construct it. What
Right.
happens before and what happens later is not there. I remember one of our professors used to say when he was teaching highways, never ever build a bridge with bamboo steel, black steel pipe railings,
Mhm.
because the people will cut and take it away. So let us ensure that it is always either brick or it is always concrete, that the people can't cut it, and even if they do it, it's of no use to them. It's always utility aspect that been chasing us all the time. And then, as I said, the word accountability. If I say that I'll purify the river by Yamuna or Ganga or whatever, take care of it, because of the intervention of our rapid urbanization, we never looked into that, Only when we see foam coming out in the Jamuna, then we get concerned, and then the promises are made that it will take 4 years, 5 years for us to do it, and then when that time lapses, you say another 4 years will do. Keep on postponing the solution, nobody sits to say that look this far and no further. We cannot do it.
Right. That means we have not been able to learn from people's ideas and perception about rivers and rights of rivers and even floods, and take them with those in power. Like there is a quite disconnect between people's perception and those sitting in power.
There is no debate, because somebody comes and says that look, we are going to build this dam or we are going to build that road or whatever. We never say or never tell people that what will be the repercussion of it. Say, for example, I say North Bihar, the ground slope around Indo-Nepal border is about 22 centimeters per kilometer. And as you reach Ganga, it is only 7 centimeters per kilometer. When it is 7 centimeters per kilometer means that even if you build a road 2 feet high, that is again in the path of water.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then the water getting stagnated on that roadside will go about 2 miles backwards because of the ground floor. If it continues raining, the seepage will be less, or the transportation of water will be less, and that water will backflow. Anybody can say, that this was not taken care of. Fine, no problem. It may happen only in case of first cases where you have committed that mistake. But why should you repeat it all the time? Not bothering about it at all. Now, I'll tell you an example. Say in 2007, in Bihar, there was a very massive flood. And there were, if I remember correctly, there were about 34 beaches in the embankments, river embankments, and roads were breached at 30 national highway and state highways, big roads. They were breached about 34 times. There may be some confusion about it, 34 or 54. Those figures may be changed. I don't remember it now. But my feeling is, as an engineer, that look at these points, the river water or the flood water was hinting that it needs a passage at those places.
Yes.
And what we did, we strengthened the gap between the two wings of that breach and got happy, that look, now nothing is going to happen for another 30 years. But what happens in between? Okay. And what will happen after 30 years? Why that 30 years limit is set? That means 31st year, it will breach again if it obeys the politicians. 31st year, it will breach. So who guarantees it? Well, it comes very handy to the politicians to say 30 years or 35 years or whatever, because they know very well that they will not be surviving when the breach takes place after 31 years. So that's an insurance against their professions. Right. They can say whatever they like. Same thing is with engineers also, They also retire after 30-35 years time. So nobody is responsible. Now we can blame Nehru or we can blame Rajendra Prasad or Radha Krishnan or whatever. Because none of them are there, So keep on blaming them. How does it matter? Right. But somebody should be accountable, Well, when you say that this much area is to be protected, whether it must be ensured whether it is protected or not. And if not, who is responsible for it? Who committed that mistake, But those things don't happen at all. Never be reviewed. Right. I wrote in 2015 to Ministry of Water Resources, that look, an equal problem than flood control is drainage of the water that comes onto the ground. So now, since you have had two irrigation commissions or flood control commissions, kindly set up a drainage commission. They wrote back to me saying that the idea is very good and must be looked into. That was 2016. I don't know what happened to that,
I think the mindset has not changed. And if you see India's flood control policy or approach, it is still revolving around embankments.
Embankments, yes.
And investment in the flood control is doing more harm than the good.
That's true.
So you have been also writing that you have been writing that embankments have in fact amplified the flood mystery.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's on record, it's not that say the government, records say that it was 25 million hectares of land was flood prone in 1952 and it is now 50, just doubled. Wow. 49.96 or million hectares on a national scale. And in say like state like Bihar, it is 3 times. It was 25 lakh hectares in 1952. Now it stands at about 74 lakh hectares. And remember, the area of the state is 94 lakh hectares. And 73 to 74 lakh hectares is flood prone.
Wow.
And nobody seems to be concerned about it, that we have tripled the flood prone area. So whatever we might be doing, there is something must be reviewed, something has gone wrong somewhere. Nobody is bothered about it. Our ministers keep on saying that we'll embank all the rivers so that the water doesn't come out. But water is water. If it doesn't come out, it will go to a place where you don't know how to handle it.
Right. So in fact, if you see the records, it seems that the floods and flooding intensity in Bihar has increased. Do you think so?
3 times.
3 times. The flooding intensity has increased or
see, that keeps on shifting, That keeps on shifting. Kosi, for example, we started embanking Kosi first, And after it was embankment, barring those incidents of breaches and water logging. There must be some change in rainfall pattern, which I'm not very critical about or not very much aware of. There must be some change in rainfall pattern, drainage pattern, because the rivers have the bed level is aggravated. It is going up.
Right.
So to combat that, you have to raise the embankments also. So raising embankments gives you some breathing time but it does not solve the problem, because the sediment will keep on accumulating in the riverbed because you have stopped its passage to spread land all over,
Right.
Earlier, water used to, wherever river water used to go, the sediments used to accompany it. Now the water doesn't go, so sediment, where will they go? You feel happy that we have tamed all the river and then made the area free from floods. But does it really happen? Now it suffers from waterlogging instead of floods. And once the embankment breaches, then there is a deluge. No flooding. And you know how to handle a cat, don't know how to handle a tiger. So that is what is happening. And poor people, see what has happened, it has impacted our agricultural pattern. Starting with Kosi. One, those people whose land fell within the embankments. If they were smart enough, they started disposing it, much before the projects were taken up. Because they knew that it will all be sand, So that was one. People employed over as laborers over that land, earning their livelihood from either whether by sharing or whatever. They lost the job. Many people who had skills like, say, carpenters, blacksmiths, so many found. Initially, they found a lot of employment in agriculture. So they switched over, And after about 10, 12, 15 years, the agriculture suffered either because of sand casting or because of waterlogging. So these fellows, they lost their skills and they lost agriculture, both. What do? And they could not impart the education to their children to take care of it, So they started migrating elsewhere. It started with Calcutta. It was already there towards east. And after the government changed in, say, 70s, then the passage towards east was stopped and it started towards west. So west is the beneficiary of loss of agriculture in our areas, They get cheap labor.
Right.
And these people get uprooted, What happens? Say, supposing I am a laborer and I come to your area, for, say, doing any job. You will be welcoming me till such time I am a working force, proper working force, and I am useful to you. The day I become weak and I can't your area, they say, bye, bahut ho gaya, you please take care of yourself. Now, taking care of yourself means what? Retiring to slums there or coming back to the village. Now, coming back to the villages, I have been coming frequently to my village. Say it started with thrice a year, then it became once a year, then once in 2 years and once in 5 years and all. And then my brother, who is staying in the village, when I reached there after 20 years, he said, you had all fun in the cities, Why have you come back? He said, my land is there. Well, if I had not been here, where your land would have gone? I have no answer, Ultimately, I start sitting on the roadside with my wife and spend time waiting for both of us to die. The children don't take care of you, they don't own you. Your brothers don't own you. And there is a long stretch of people living like that and desperate people,
Right.
Now, is there any agency to take care of them? I feel no. So loss of employment because of poverty planning, We didn't treat society as our society. That look, this is what has started happening. Even if you didn't know earlier, when it started happening, you should have taken care of. Maybe in Europe and America, they might be doing it, but we don't do. So fleet of desperate people all along, and that's why I said, who is accountable to them? Their plight.
So I'm thinking about this, the entire mega fan of Kosi River. When you mentioned Kosi and the shifting river channels from late 17th century to where we are today now, and see the historic floods of 2008 and the great shifting of the Kosi, I think 120 kilometers eastward. So how do you visualize the communities and settlements and infrastructure in that particular mega fan, which is always prone to flooding?
Well, that must be discussed, that must be discussed. Actually, see, we need water for irrigation, for our cultivation. And there are different stages of that need, Now, how do these fellows define a flood? The first rain that falls, say towards the end of June, that season, they say, "Arey, to acha pani hai. This is very good water. It will settle the dust." They are not bothered. They say this rain is for settling the dust, and will wait for the rain that moists their field, so that seeds can be thrown into it. Whatever, whether it is maize, madua, ragi, paddy, whatever, depending on the different locations of it. Not every grain can be grown everywhere, because the availability of water should be different and their timings. So that water, what we should be doing, it should be arranged somehow. And how do we do it? Earlier we used to wait for rains, and then many rituals were attached to it. I don't recommend that those rituals should be repeated, but still the waiting was there, for that rains. And when it continuously rains for about 15-20 days, that starts the transplanting season, and that is how the river water starts coming to your fields. That is again a point of celebration, that, well, yes, we have sowed it, and then we are transplanting it either. We are not concerned about those floods, outside of or from a plane you can see that there is water everywhere, but that's a welcome water. Now, what happens when it starts encroaching the bunds of the fields? Say in case of paddy, we have got high bunds along the fields. If it starts encroaching and starts reaching our villages, then they say, now it is flood. Earlier it was not. Those two stages, it was not flood. When it reaches there, and then they say when the river water reaches the village, it is scared of the pegs through which the cattle are held. That the river water is scared of those pegs and recedes back. But if it enters, and that they call, when it reaches their village, they call it Baad or Banya or flood and all that. If the water exceeds even and comes up to the sill level of your house, they say it is bow. It's no more flood. It is bow. It has entered your courtyard and has grown up to the height of the window sill level. Then it is bow. If it goes up to lintel level, then they call it humma. And then they say the buffaloes start looking like elephants, because they have to spend a lot of time in water and they swell. So that is humma. That is how they define it. When the buffalo looks like an elephant, it is humma. And then if it crosses that, then they have got a different name. I'm missing it. Sorry, they call it Saah.
Saah.
Saah, S-A-A-H, Saah. Saah. That water may even pass over your roof, if the huts are low. So that is Saah. And if it goes beyond, then it is Pralay. And they also say that no person in their village or in the locality or the area can see 2 Saahs in their lifetime. That means their frequency is about 50 years or so.
50 years, once in a 50 years event.
50 years.
Hmm.
They also say, and I asked personally some of them,
Mm-hmm.
I went to a village along the bank of the Kosi, of course it was Kosi, and I could see a hand pump pipe,
Mm-hmm.
that was standing about 20 feet higher than the ground,
Wow.
with the headwork
Uh-huh.
on it. So I said, how does it happen? And they said
Hmm.
there was a flooding
Hmm.
and it washed away the whole village and
Wow.
left this pipe and the pipe head. I said, where you were there?
Hmm.
Both things up. We know that water is rising and we should move to some safer places.
Hmm.
And we are prepared that no cobwebs are formed in our huts.
Mm-hmm.
वो जो चूल्हा जलाते हैं ना, when the fireplace and all the cobwebs are formed, under the roof, black, dark cobwebs. They said our huts don't get cobwebs. Before the cobwebs appear, the river washes the hut.
Wow.
It takes it away, and then we collect bamboo and other this paddy straw and all, build another hut. Once it is river, we come back to the village. So casually. कुछ पानी आता है तो आता है जाता था. इस बार कुछ this year it was a bit more. So those adjustment techniques, we never bothered to learn it from them, and even if we did, we tried to glamorize it. It becomes a picnic spot. We visit such places, but never. Very, very rarely we talk it. Look into a child born along the bank of the river. At the age of about 2 years, he starts traveling to the river with his father holding his hand. And by 7, 8 years, he starts swimming in that water, under the care of the parents. And then by 14 years, he can row a boat, both boys and girls, both. Not that only boys, also. They do it. Every child or every person along the river knows how to row a boat. And we go as there as a stranger, we are scared of water, we don't know anything, and yet we are adamant enough to teach them that look, you are a layman and you don't know how to behave with the river. And that is amazing. And those people that tolerate it, they say that we never went to them to ask them, look, you are in trouble and can we do something for you? And if you feel we can do something for you, what that should we do? Instead, we started promising that we will make this area free from floods. Or we will do this, that and everything, Never talk to those people that look about what are we going to do for you. And at the same time, we also don't evaluate. Say, for example, I told you that the flood-prone area in Bihar has gone 3 times more than what it was before plan period. Nobody is bothered about it. They come out with some solution, different solution. Well, if we do this, it will be stopped. But what happened that to the damage that is already done, nobody bothers about it. Nobody bothers about it. Nobody debates it.
Right.
So
I was just
Sorry,
I was going through this some details on this Kosi River. From the upstream to the downstream, and I was quite shocked to know that it has to travel a very short span of distance with so much of topographic gradient, the slope. So suddenly the water comes from Nepal and enters the plain. So the river has got limited space to attenuate its energy, and there is general feeling among even the experts think that Nepal ne pani chhod diya. There is a general feeling among the educated and even the uneducated ones that Nepal releases excess water during monsoons and causes floods in Bihar.
Yeah.
So why this picture has been portrayed? I mean,
one thing. I mean, my explanation really it suits politicians, कि नेपाल ने पानी छोड़ दिया, है ना? For releasing water, somebody must have held it first.
Exactly.
You can't release anything without holding it, isn't it? Now, say for Kosi or Gandak and all, there are two barrages, one on the Gandak and one on the Kosi. There may be other barrages also coming up now in future. These two barrages are made by Indian engineers, not by Nepali engineers. Although Kosi barrage is located within Nepal area. One end of it, the eastern end of it, just adjoins India, and the western end is altogether in Nepal. That barrage is located there, but that functioning of that barrage is controlled by Indian engineers. Water Resources Department of Bihar, and then to Central Water Commission or whatever, it goes. I mean, it's a big ladder there. So if anybody releases water, it is our Water Resources Department, because the engineer sitting at the barrage site can't take any decision without the consent of the headquarters.
Right.
So if anybody releases water, it is the government of Bihar through its agency located in Nepal. Has got no role there.
But even in UP,
same thing happens with.
Even in UP, I heard the Water Resource Minister saying that the water was released from Nepal to eastern UP, and that's why we have floods in Sharda River and Bagmati.
That shows the depth of their information and knowledge. Knowledge is a bit harsh word. They are ministers after all. But I will say it's a level of their information and understanding of the situation. And that thing has percolated right down to the people. When it comes from top brasses, then the lower level people are there to follow it. So they say Nepal ne pani chhod diya. The press also writes. I have talked many times to media. I say, look, this is the situation. It cannot release water, and if anybody does it, it is Bihar's own engineers. Our own engineers and our own Water Resources Department. Don't blame Nepal for this, which is not involved in it.
Right.
But so then it makes a heading. Nepal ne pani chhod diya.
So that means we have not been able to change the public perception and even of those of the experts about rivers, the ways floods are understood, the way floods are managed. There's still a lot of knowledge divide.
Though that is there, only thing is our accountability problem is very weak. We are very weak on that. So anybody can get away with whatever he wants to do or say. There was a minister in Bihar, he had promised once, that if any embankment breaches, I will resign. And within a month of his saying so, there was a breach. And then his own party men started asking him for resigning, which he did. But the resignation was not accepted. So any promise you can make, without fulfilling it, and anything you can do without being accountable to it.
Right.
Then we compare ourselves with Europe and United States and whatever. कोई तो हो ना responsibility लेने वाला. Or there should be somebody that look, whatever we have done in past is not yielding results. So let us think something else. Look, we blame Nepal, for not allowing us to build dam in Nepal. The first proposal of it came in 1937, and we are still negotiating. Why does it not occur to our politicians that look, we have been negotiating with Nepal, but it's a bottomless pit. We are unable to do anything because the decision lies in the hands of another country, country. So that's a given condition. And even if they agree today, it will take at least about 20 years time to prepare a project report and draw a schedule for doing that. Another 20-30 years to complete the dam, construction part of it, together with all powerhouses and distribution system and all, everything of that sort. Do we have any interim plan?
Right.
to deal with floods for these 50 years, 60 years, or whatever? No. Our team for engineers, is there in Nepal since 1997, if I am not mistaken. The whole thing was reviewed in 2004, and then another reinforcement was sent. So it is 1997, and now it's 24 years without any result. Somebody should be worried about it. Hey, look what is happening. And then why don't we call our people? Or call our engineers? Must be thousands of it, worthy engineers, very talented people. That look, dams in Nepal or dams in upstream Nepal I should not be using that word. Dams upstream, providing for it or commissioning for it is not in our hands. So, and we have built embankments or we have done certain works that have not yielded results. They have doubled the area or tripled the area flood prone. So whatever we have done in past for about 70-75 years, that also has not worked. Now, find a solution. What we should be doing for future. We have never said to our engineers, as far as I know, in annual meeting of engineers in Bihar at least. Annual meeting, there are about 20-25 chief engineers, they don't meet to review the performance, whatever you promised when the budget is sanctioned for the year and what we have achieved in that year. There is no meeting to review it. So loose.
So my last question to you, Mr. Ji, is on can we visualize ever rivers without embankments? I mean, it seems like an utopian dream.
Maybe there have been engineers, I remember there was one William English, who was chief engineer. I think he retired in 1907. And he had said, but then for the rivers like Kosi, there have been 23 or 27 known streams of Kosi, through which it had traveled at some point or the other. But then taking small offshoots and all, the whole area is offshoot of Kosi at some time or the other year. So he said that can't we go in for controlled flooding? That within the embankments we make spillways at certain intervals and allow the surplus water to an extent. We allow the water to remain within the rivers, and after that surplus water, when it exceeds, let that be released into these channels, the abundant channels of the Kosi. So the water will be spread. Along with that, some sediments also will go to that area. So that problem also will be reduced, and then they call it controlled flooding. That was, I think, in 1905. Same thing, controlled flooding, is said by one of our chief engineers in 1990s. Maybe they also might be saying even now that we should be going for those controlled flooding, or we should be managing floods, not controlling them. Those are the phrases. But yet they are doing the same thing which they had been doing to control a river. So they say they are managing. Actually, they are controlling, and they are perpetuating the process on the people which they have miserably failed to contain rivers and their floods. So, given these constraints, can we invite our engineers that look, forget about dams in Nepal and forget about the embankments? Do we have any other solution to this? Even if it amounts to doing away with the embankments. Doing away with the embankments is a very catchy slogan, very catchy slogan. People ask me, तो क्या करते हैं हम डैम्स को, embankments को तोड़ दें? अरे नहीं यार, don't have to. The river is doing it free of cost. The question that should be asked is, once the river has breached an embankment, whether the breach should be plugged or not, and who will take their decision. There are many places where the people cut the embankment, cut the embankment because it's not for fun they do it or not. There are not all antisocials. Say the waterlogged river, I mean on the countryside of the embankment, if the waterlogging becomes invariable, peoples and their villages along the embankment, they start getting flooded and it becomes detrimental to them. A stage comes when they decide to cut the embankment to drain the water into the river. Okay, so what option we have before them? They have before them either die, get submerged, drowned in the water, or cut the embankment. So they go for the easier option, cut the embankment. Okay. And those living within the embankments, most of the people, they don't imagine that there are about 1.5 million people living within the Kosi embankments in their 385 villages, and 34 villages of Nepal are also there. So total population may be around 15 lakhs now. What will happen if the river water starts haunting them? To lower the level, they will cut the embankment. Maybe Kosi they don't want to touch because it's a very ferocious river. But then smaller rivers, they always experiment on that, they cut the embankments. So depending on where they are located and how the river is behaving. I don't advocate that these things should be done. But then the people are there with no option, And then they both, on either side, they sat together. And remember, they are relatives and friends on either side, separated by 100 yards. So I will not like that you should be killed or your house washed away. No. But then when it comes to personal safety, we resort to my maternal uncles are there and the paternal uncles are there living on the other side. So I can't do that to them. And then they say antisocial elements have done it. No. They have done it deliberately, calculating all the pros and cons. This is what is going to happen, that their mommy will die or the bua will die. Unfortunately, we don't discuss these inconvenient issues. So whole thing should be reviewed, but no takers. Right. No takers. Those in power, they know how to deal with the people and how to raise slogans and all. So chalta hai bhai.
Thank you so much, Dinesh ji, for such a wonderful conversation, talk. And now I give this floor to Rakesh ji. He also had few questions. So if you allow him, Rakesh ji.
देखिए, the way in the policy makings are done, we are too much, what I will say, जो हमारी जो प्लानिंग होनी चाहिए, एक तरह से अर्बन सेंट्रिक और जो हमारा जो विलेज सेंट्रिक है, रूरल एंड अर्बन, इन दोनों की जो प्लानिंग है, there should be a difference and there is a stark difference if you look at the implementation. So in the policy as well, there should be very stark differences between these two. क्योंकि जो impact जो निकल के आता है दोनों तरफ का, embankment are important in the urban areas. If you look at it from that point of view, क्योंकि हम अपने effluent को कंट्रोल नहीं कर पाते हैं, the water circulation, pollution. So उसके लिए अभी मैं एक मीटिंग से ही आया हूँ. तो गुड़गांव की जो स्थिति है, गुड़गांव में आप देखोगे तो अब एक अनइवन सरफेस है. आपके पास एक एरिया है जहाँ पे पानी सरप्लस में बहुत ज्यादा है. आपका इस समय तकरीबन 6000 एकड़ पानी पिछले एक साल में सबमर्ज हो गया है रिसेंटली अलोंग द नजफगढ़ ड्रेन एरिया, जो कि यमुना से जाके मिलता है. रीजन उसका ये है कि गुड़गांव या हमारा जो हरियाणा है वो थोड़ा ऐसे टिल्टेड है. टिल्टेड होने की वजह से पानी हर एरिया का, इवन ड्रेनेज जो आ रहा है, ग्रे वाटर आ रहा है, स्टॉर्म वाटर आ रहा है, सब मिक्स होके एक ही कुछ इलाकों में जाके एक्युमुलेट हो रहा है. तो ये एक बड़ी मेजर प्रॉब्लम धीरे धीरे निकल के लोगों के सामने आ रही है. अगेन नाउ इफ यू आस्क देम टू स्टॉप कंक्रीटाइजिंग द ड्रेन्स, या अगर हम एम्बैंकमेंट के लिए उनको मना करते हैं तो देन देयर इज नो सॉल्यूशन हियर. तो एक जो इमीडिएट हमारे को अगर एक वो लेना है, स्टेप लेना है टू सेव लाइव्स एंड control that in the urban setup, which is much more controlled, and the kind of bureaucracy you see in urban centers is a bit defined. It's better than what you see in rural areas. तो जो ब्यूरोक्रेसी उस तरह का जो एक्ट करती है या प्लानिंग करती है, तो वो एम्बैंकमेंट या फिर इंजीनियर्ड एफर्ट्स जो होते हैं वो उसमें काफी ज्यादा उस तरीके से आपको आप हार्शली वो उसको जाती है लेके, राइट? तो बिल्डिंग आर्टिफिशियल रिजर्वॉयर्स, आर बिल्डिंग आर्टिफिशियल लेक्स और प्लस पॉन्ड्स, तो इस तरह की चीजें प्लस विद एम्बैंकमेंट, जो कि एक हमारे को इमीडिएट रिलीफ के लिए चाहिए, क्योंकि मॉनसून अगर आ रहा है नेक्स्ट ईयर ही आने वाला है, तो वी हैव टू मेक श्योर कि भाई एटलीस्ट ये नजफगढ़ से ट्रेन से पानी निकल के यमुना में चली जाए। तो एक ये है कि भाई दिल्ली को दे दो पानी, वो अपना हैंडल करेगा। तो एक ये जो थॉट प्रोसेस भी है, क्योंकि हमारे रिवर्स भी बटी हुई हैं डिफरेंट बिटवीन डिफरेंट एरियाज एंड डिफरेंट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, तो इसमें काफी कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी है। तो हर जगह का अपना जो एक मॉडल है, अगर एक सेंट्रल एजेंसी उसको अगर कंट्रोल नहीं करेगी, तो हमेशा जो कन्फ्लिक्ट हमारे दिख रहे हैं, जो आपने बोला कि इधर के एम्बैंकमेंट वो काटेंगे क्योंकि भाई उनको अपने आप को बचाना है, तो ये कन्फ्लिक्ट्स हमारे जो इतने इनहेरेंट हैं, विदाउट हैविंग अ सेंट्रल एजेंसी विद सम पावर और सम काइंड ऑफ एक जो अप्रोच, सेंट्रल अप्रोच जो होना चाहिए, वो नहीं होता है। स्पेशली और दूसरे जो खेती के लिए हमारे जो पानी का जो यूज हो रहा है, हम डिफरेंट स्टेट्स में कभी ये वाटर शेयरिंग का या फिर एक वाटर एज अ रिसोर्स लेके हम लोग हर रिवर को, हम कभी इस तरह की प्लानिंग, एक होलिस्टिक जो प्लानिंग होनी चाहिए रिवर्स को पूरा एंड टू एंड 2-3 राज्यों का लेके, कि भाई किसने कितने कनाल काटे हैं जिसकी वजह से आपका फ्लो पैटर्न चेंज हुआ है, जिससे अगर आपके रिवर बेड ऊपर हो रहे हैं तो आपका फ्लो कहाँ पे चेंज हो रहा है। क्या मान लीजिए यमुना का फ्लो किसी ने फ्लो चेंज किया है किसी कनाल के थ्रू, जिसकी वजह से गंगा का फ्लो चेंज हुआ है। तो इस तरह की जो एक मैपिंग्स होनी चाहिए, वो अभी तक जो हमारी इवन एट एजुकेशन इंस्टीट्यूशन लेवल या रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूशन लेवल भी उसको किसी ने टेक अप नहीं किया है।
क्यों नहीं किया?
ये सब इश्यूज, अगेन पॉलिटिकल विल ही नहीं है, पॉलिटिकल जो आपके क्या बेनिफिट्स, राइट? तो ये काफी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड आपके मैटर दिख जाते हैं लोकल लेवल पे भी। आप छोटी छोटी 2 बड़े एडवांस स्टेट्स देखिए आप, हरियाणा, आप एनसीआर बोल लीजिए, तो हरियाणा है आपका, गुड़गांव है, दिल्ली, इन दोनों में कोलैबोरेशन लेना कि भाई यमुना को आप किस तरह से मैनेज करोगे, उसमें इतनी प्रॉब्लम आती है कि लोग बात नहीं करने को तैयार हैं। तो थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे दिखता है कि देयर हैज टू बी सम मिटिगेशन एजेंसी और सम आर्बिट्रेशन एजेंसी कॉन्स्टेंटली वर्किंग विद अ मोड, जिनका यही काम है। तो आई थिंक वो थोड़ा ज्यादा काम करेगी हमारे लिए।
मैं आपको एक चीज की थोड़ा सा बताऊं कि जैसे फ्लड प्लेन जोनिंग वाला है ना, पहली एक बात तो जो आपने बहुत अच्छी बताई कि अर्बन एरियाज की प्रॉब्लम्स हुई हैं। जब आज से 50 साल पहले की बात करें अगर, तो फ्लड की 50 साल क्यों 20 साल पहले की बात करें, कि जब भी कोई बाढ़ का नाम लेता है तो हमारे सामने जो सीन आता है वो गांव का आता है ना, कि वो लोग होंगे अपने गाय गोरू और बाल बच्चे लेकर के और सामान लेकर के, दे आर मूविंग टू सेफ्टी एंड नो बोट्स दिखाई पड़ती होंगी, डूबे हुए पेड़ दिखाई पड़ते होंगे। दैट्स द सीनरी नॉर्मली वी यूज्ड टू इमेजिन से some 20-30 years ago। शहर की उसमें गिनती नहीं थी। तो जो भी हमारी प्लानिंग हुई इतने दिनों में, उसने गांव की प्रॉब्लम को तो डिरेंज किया। मैं ये नहीं कहूँगा कि उसको सॉल्व किया या वर्स किया, लेकिन डिरेंज किया। वो शहर में पानी घुसना शुरू हो गया कि ये इन लोगों को दिखाई नहीं पड़ता था कि क्या करते हैं। अब तो शहर भी उससे अटैक है ना, और शहर कैसा, भोपाल जैसा शहर, नागपुर जैसा शहर, जो कि अनड्यूलेटेड है ना। मैंने भोपाल देखा और वहाँ की बाढ़ देखी, मेरे समझ में नहीं आई क्या हो रहा है ना। ये इतने लोग बैठे हुए हैं वहाँ पर अलग अलग कमीशंस में और डिपार्टमेंट्स में, उनको दिखाई नहीं पड़ता कि क्या करेंगे। तो वो आपने 2.5 दिन की बाढ़, जो गांव वाले बताते हैं कि हमारी बाढ़ तो 2.5 दिन की होती थी, वो 2.5 दिन की बाढ़ को आपने वहाँ 2.5 महीने की कर दी। और जो अर्बन जो एरियाज में जो फ्लड थी ही नहीं, वो तो पहले से ही प्रोटेक्टेड थे, उनको आपने डुबा दिया। कौन रिस्पॉन्सिबल होगा इसका, बताइए तो। और कौन इसको करेक्ट करेगा? पॉलिटिक्स तो हम लोग खेलेंगे, और मेरा अपना मानना है कि इसमें टेक्नोलॉजी का कोई रोल ही नहीं। जो कुछ रोल है पॉलिटिक्स का, कि हम लोग उसको क्या वो ऑर्डर देते हैं कि तुम ये करो और वो करो, वो तो होता नहीं है। वो पता नहीं, there should be some statesman to take care of all that।
राइट, होता है इस तरह से। अगर पॉलिटिशियन का अपना इंटरेस्ट हो अगर पॉलिटिशियन का अगर इंटरेस्ट हो, बिजनेस इंटरेस्ट हो कि भाई यहाँ पे अगर हम लोग सर्टेन टाइप ऑफ डैम्स क्रिएट करेंगे, राइट, या उसका लैंड उस एरिया में पड़ता है, तो बहुत ही लोकल तरीके से लोग एक दूसरे को मोटिवेट करके काम करवाते हैं। बट अगेन ये स्केलेबल नहीं है, या स्टैंडर्ड प्रोसीजर की तरह उसको हम लोग पॉलिसी में नहीं,
वो तो कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते, वो तो स्केल तो अलग है, लोकेशंस अलग हैं। हाँ। एक ही चीज का डिसाइड कर लें और आप सब जगह कर देंगे उसको, तो वो तो पॉसिबल नहीं है, होना भी नहीं चाहिए।
यस,
इट शुड बी डिबेटेड एंड इट शुड बी टोल्ड टू द पीपल। उनकी राय, चाहे जो भी प्लेटफॉर्म हो हमारा, उससे उन्हें कहें कि भाई ऐसा ऐसा होने जा रहा है। क्योंकि होता क्या है, जब आप कोई प्लान करके लेकर जाते हैं तो वहाँ आपके ट्रैक्टरों में लोग आग लगाते हैं, लोगों को काम नहीं करने देते हैं, वगैरह वगैरह, वो सारी चीजें हो जाती हैं, बिकॉज देयर हैड बीन नो डायलॉग, होता ही नहीं। हाँ, तो कहीं से तो ये बहस शुरू हो या बातचीत शुरू हो कि भाई ठीक है, ये अब प्रोजेक्ट आप कर रहे हैं, तो पहले तो आप उसका स्टेटेड ऑब्जेक्टिव दे दीजिए और उसके बाद से बताइए कि इसके साथ स्टेटेड लॉसेस भी होंगे, इनकन्वीनियंसेस भी होंगी, है ना। तो एंड वी शुड बी प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर इट, दैट whosoever is inconvenienced or dislodged will take care of it and take it honestly. आमतौर पर हम लोग बेवकूफ बना करके छोड़ देते हैं उन लोगों को। हमारा 15 लाख लोग पड़े हुए हैं कोसी एम्बैंकमेंट के अंदर, और मेरा ख्याल है कि कम से कम 1 करोड़ लोग होंगे पूरे बिहार में जिनका कि कोई ना घर है ना जमीन है, कुछ भी नहीं। वो दिल्ली पंजाब में मिलेंगे आपको।
ट्रू। तो ये तो है, देखिए हमारे पास इवन इंट्रा डिस्ट्रिक्ट तो एक तो मल्टीपल डिस्ट्रिक्ट अगर जहाँ कंट्रोल में आपके इसमें रिवर के फ्लो में आते हैं, यहाँ अगर सेम डिस्ट्रिक्ट में भी देखेंगे तो देयर आर सो मेनी जोन्स एंड वेरिएशंस जो कि आपका एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन समझ नहीं पाता है और एक्ट क्विकली नहीं कर पाता। पहले जहाँ पे जिस स्पीड में बसावट आती है, अगेन आई एम गिविंग यू गुड़गांव एज एग्जांपल, तो ये अब यहाँ पे बहुत दिनों से पॉलिसी यही थी कि पानी कम है, ऐसे डार्क जोन, एवरीवन मेड अ पॉलिसी अराउंड इट कि भाई कंक्रीटाइजेशन नहीं होना चाहिए, स्टॉर्म वाटर को आपको परकुलेट करने देना है। नाउ इफ यू सी 6000 एकर्स ऑफ लैंड, प्राइम लैंड गोइंग अंडर वाटर, तो फिर एकदम से पॉलिसी फिर चेंज होती है। बट अगेन उसका जो इतनी तेजी से होना चाहिए काम, वो नहीं होता, वो भी प्लानिंग स्टेज में चले गए हैं। बट अभी तक वो जितना कंक्रीटाइजेशन तेजी से उस इलाके में करना था, नाउ दे गेट कंफ्यूज कि कहां से कहां तक क्या करना है, राइट। अब अगेन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का भी वो रोल आ जाता है कि भाई अगर कोर्ट ने ऑर्डर दिया हुआ है कोई डिस्ट्रिक्ट का बैन करना है, अगेन वो बोलेगा कि नहीं इधर का बैन करना है, उधर का नहीं करना। हाउ दे विल फॉर्मुलेट दैट, आर्टिकुलेट कैसे करेंगे इस चीज को कोर्ट के सामने? तो ये बहुत मेजर लोकल, उसमें बहुत ज्यादा पॉलिटिकल ही विल नहीं, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन विल बहुत ज्यादा चाहिए। जो भी आईएएस ऑफिसर है,
एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन तो पॉलिटिशियंस के अंडर में है।
हाँ, वो एक है, पॉलिटिशियंस के अंडर भी है। कई बार एक सत्ताधारी पॉलिटिशियन के अलावा भी सामने वाले पॉलिटिशियन अंडर भी कई बार हो जाते हैं। तो देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट जो कि लोकल एरिया में हम लोग फेस करते हैं once we go and start looking at and surveying these kind of issues, और फिर उस पे एक्ट करने के लिए वेरी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड सिनेरियो जो कि हमें धीरे धीरे करके नेविगेट करना पड़ता है, it takes time
करना पड़ेगा। देखिए इसमें ऐसा है कि देश और समाज को अगर हम अपना समझें, कम से कम वो लोग जो कि रेस्पॉन्सिबल जगहों पर काम कर रहे हैं,
राइट,
तो चीजें थोड़ी सी बदलेंगी। लेकिन अब अपने को ही देखेंगे खाली।
हाँ,
अब हमारे साथ एक मित्र थे, वो बताते थे कि साहब अब तो चीफ इंजीनियर था और उसने प्रपोज किया था। मैं बता रहा था ना कि इसका ये कंट्रोल फ्लडिंग का, तो मैंने पूछा कि वो चीफ इंजीनियर था तब उसने कहा या रिटायर होने के बाद कहा? तो बोलते हैं रिटायर होने के बाद कहा। क्यों कहा बाद में? जब वो पूरी पावर उसके हाथ में थी तब वो क्यों खामोश रह गया? और ये बात 100 साल से हो रही है ना, विल्बर्न इंग्लिश से लेकर के और आज के जो चीफ इंजीनियर्स हैं उन तक चल रही। उनकी जबान तभी खुलती है जब वो रिटायर होने को होती है, एंड दैट इज द टाइम व्हेन दे प्लान फॉर देयर फ्यूचर, यू नो, कहाँ घर बनाएंगे, कहाँ रहेंगे, कहाँ बेटी बेटे होंगे, क्या होगा और कितना उनका वो रिटायरमेंट प्लान बनता है, काम नहीं होता। तो बड़ी कॉम्प्लेक्स सिचुएशन है। वही कह रहा हूँ, अगर समाज को और देश को अपना समझेंगे तो और उसके प्रति कुछ दायित्व समझेंगे तब तो कुछ हो सकता है। लेकिन
और उसमें लोकल जो स्टेक होल्डर हैं उनको ही उठ के आना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि बाहर से हम अगर जाते हैं कहीं भी, अगर कुछ भी अगर हम देखते हैं, इवन महानंदा आप लोग अगर दिल्ली से जाके देखते हैं, देन आप लोकल जो ये कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज हैं वो आप पकड़ नहीं सकते, वो आप समझ नहीं पाते हो। आप अपने एरिया के माइंडसेट को लेके जाते हो, देन यू गो देयर एंड यू फाइंड सम सम काइंड ऑफ मान लीजिए एक लैंड ग्रैब ही हो रहा है वहां पे महानंदा रिवर बैंक पे। सम पॉलिटिशियन थॉट कि भाई हमें यहाँ पे एक बड़ा लैंड, तो उसने 6 महीने के अंदर पूरी एक छोटी नदी उसकी ट्राइब्यूटरी के ऊपर ही पूरा एक बसावट बसा दिया, राइट। और इधर ही टुक सम अदर वे, लाइक बीएसएफ का पूरा कैंप वहां बसवा दिया विद सम ट्रिक्स एंड ट्रैक, और बाद में फ्लडिंग उसकी वजह से आपका पूरा एरिया डूब गया। तो ये सब अब इनको इस तरह की चीजें लोकल लोग बहुत समझते हैं। इफ दे स्टार्ट एक्टिंग और some way, they have a recourse, some kind of even at the policy level, central policy level, अगर इस तरह के लॉज बनते हैं जो कि इनको देख के बनते हैं कि some kind of, तो it might affect, right, थोड़ा सा होगा। बट हम लोग
पॉलिटिशियंस बड़े श्रूड हैं पॉलिटिशियंस राकेश जी। कोसी वाला जब अमेंडमेंट बन रहा था तो लोगों को पता नहीं था कि दे आर गोइंग टू गेट ट्रैप्ड, क्योंकि उसके पहले जो बात होती थी वो नेपाल में बांध की बात होती थी। बांध मतलब डैम की, डैम मींस इट इज द स्ट्रक्चर अक्रॉस द रिवर फ्लो, लेकिन ये जो एम्बैंकमेंट्स हैं दे आर अलोंग द रिवर फ्लो। सो व्हेन दे रियलाइज कि ये तो कुछ और हो रहा है जो प्रॉमिस किया, एंड देन देयर आर विलेजेस गोइंग टू गेट ट्रैप्ड, कि उनको पूरी नदी जो है अब तो इतने में ही बहेगी, 10 किलोमीटर के अंदर ही बहेगी, तो क्या करेंगे। देन देयर वाज अ लॉट ऑफ रिसेंटमेंट, और ये जो पॉलिटिशियन लोगों ने जो खेल खेला वहां पर कि जो उसके लीडर्स थे लोकल लेवल पर सबको 1-1 किलोमीटर का ठेका दे दिया, किस्सा खत्म हो गया। अब वो ठेकेदार हो गए और जिससे उनको तकलीफ थी वही उनको अच्छा लगने लगा।
राइट, हाँ, ट्रू। Yes, again is the livelihood kind of a thing. आप अगर livelihood create करें तो then again local area के लोग भी जुड़ जाते हैं उस काम में short sightedness के साथ। So what happens? Yes, we will keep working right at our respective locations as much as we can do. Right?
हेलो जी, perfect. अच्छा लगा आप लोगों से बात करके।
जी जरूर, कभी
मिलेंगे।
नहीं काफी।
Thank you दिनेश जी।
Thank you विकेश जी।
चलो।
बैलेट बॉक्स इंडिया, आओ बनाए मजबूत स्थानीय नेतृत्व।